Hello, everyone. I'm Siti Asdiah from University of Malaya in Malaysia. So first of all, I would like to thank ALTERSEA committee for allowing me to present on this platform. My presentation today would be the global ALTERSEA movement, politics and belonging among Malaysian diaspora abroad. Just a background story. During my master I did my dissertation on Malaysia branding in Korea, so I focused on push and pull factors of the migration. What interesting was most of the interviewees I had said that they move because they don't feel like being home in Malaysia. So they have to struggle mainly because of the landscape in Malaysian politics, which pretty much affecting the economy and social structure in this country. However, they said that living abroad makes them more aware of Malaysia's situation and develop more attachment towards Malaysia. So they want to see and do something to make Malaysia better. I started to wonder if that is the case for the diaspora in other countries. So I dug in more into it, and true enough, the more I look for the response, the more I notice that the experiences and knowledge obtained while living abroad was have encouraged the overseas Malaysian community to cultivate interest and awareness of political developments at home. And this diaspora community actively supporting Malaysian civil society's work at home to strengthen Malaysia maturing democracy, which resulting in the forming of global Bersih. So, for this presentation, I will focus on the relationship and contribution of social movement, which is global Bersih, and sense of belonging among diaspora in bringing social change. Before I begin, I will first introduce you to Malaysia so that you have a foundation to understand about this presentation. So, Malaysia is made up of two major segments, Peninsula Malaysia and Sabah and Sarawak. And prior to independence and establishment of Malaysia, this country has been colonized by Portugal, uh, Dutch, Japan, and British. And the colonization period has resulting in the unique feature of Malaysian society, which is multicultural, and also the born of race classification, Bumiputra and non-Bumiputra. So the word Bumiputra literally means son of land, and this term was used to describe the preference of Malays and other native races in Malaysian politics, which listed in Article 160 and 161 of our federal constitution. Other Malaysian population which are not included in the list are called non-Bumiputra. In terms of politics, many scholars view Malaysia as having a hybrid character, which combination of both democratic values and authoritarian feature. It displays some elements of democratic legitimacy, most commonly by holding regular periodic election, but also in the meantime, it places various types of democratic deficits under tight rules, including manipulation and repression, which further blur the line between party and state. So during 2018 general elections, Malaysia ruling government was led by the National Front (BN), and the biggest opposition was the Alliance of Hope (PH), followed by the Malaysian Islamic Party (PAS) and other parties. So I created this slide to show you how the segregation happened in Malaysia. I won't discuss in detail here, but as you can see on the screen, since the colonization period, the divide and rule policy was used to divide the community based on their ethnicity, and this segregation continued until now due to Malaysia's national plan, which created to improve Malaysia's condition but ended up causing many social conflicts in the community. All right, moving forward, let's continue with in-depth discussion of this presentation where I discuss more on the notion of belonging. So what is belonging? Belonging means acceptance as a member or part. It's really simple. It's a really simple word, but a huge concept. It's a human need, just like our need for food and shelter. But unfortunately, the notion of belonging is very much connected with the elements of exclusions and discrimination. And this is what most of us try to fight against. And this is where the social movement works magnificently as a platform to make changes and as a place to belong to. So for this presentation, I divided the discussion into three sections. So first section is belonging in question. So as I mentioned in previous slides, the national plan plays a huge role in the non-Brahmaputra discontentment. Well, we cannot run from the concept of Brahmaputra and non-Brahmaputra classification if you want to talk about the sense of belonging in Malaysia. There is a study in which to assess patriotism and loyalty of Malaysian students abroad, which result reported that non-Brahmaputra students feel threatened by Malaysian politics and exposed that they did not feel accepted as part of the society, which in the end jeopardized their sense of belonging. It's really sad reality because people already questioning their sense of belonging at young age, and it won't be so surprising to see that these people accounts for the number of Malaysian diaspora abroad. So based on the World Bank survey, as you can see on the screen, which done among diaspora, it shows 87% of them believe that if we pay attention on the race-based policy, we might be able to attract back the diaspora. However, it is not an easy option because Bumiputrism has become a convenient tool for the ruling class to maintain its powers, and for the opposition side to gain favor from those who are not happy with the classification. So I take a few news in 2018 general election as an example. You can see on the screen where leaders of political parties and candidates of the general elections were found to have promoted feelings of ill will between different races. So, the foundation of non-Malays' negative attitude towards the government is apparently linked to the use of ethnic belongingness to maintain loyalties among the supporters of both sides in this ongoing political polarization. Alright, move to the second section, belonging in construction. So similar to what I've been mentioned in introduction earlier, according to Rashida Mahmad in 2014, the experience of living abroad and observing different culture have positive links to the growing of awareness on values and identity among majority of Bumiputera and also non-Bumiputera respondents, which she relates to the concept of constructive patriotism. Okay, assuming that diaspora are all political aware might be an overstatement, but this diaspora obviously has better chance and option in being conversant about their home country politics, of course alongside their education attainment. They are more of they are more aware of their rights, which medium could be used to channel their voice, and the action they could take. And that might answer why the steering community for social movement groups are mostly coming from those with better education background. As Yolanda, one of the diaspora, said, it is our right to demand it, and we should expect no less. It shows how awareness in herself. So let's see how powerful an instrumental social movement group has been for political inclusion among Malaysians. If you want to talk about social movement group in Malaysia, we definitely need to mention Bersih. So Bersih movement was a community movement that non-partisan Malaysian citizens drove to campaign for clean and fair election in the country. So the first rally started in 2007, and it received positive response and led up to its second rally, which also gained attention from the concerned Malaysian diaspora abroad and also international media. So the support from beyond Malaysia has been demonstrated by the parallel movement that has become known as Global Bersih. So the Global Bersih is an ad hoc international movement without a formal structure, but exists in order to demonstrate support for electoral reform. So they consist of Malaysians around the world who still have strong roots and sense of attachment to their place of birth. They do feel guilty for living abroad and try to redeem this feeling of abandoning the country with action, which manifested through their involvement in political movements, political advocacy, and other transnational political activities to show their Malaysianness and contribute to the country. Lastly, let's look at belonging in actions. So on 9th of May 2018, history has made in Malaysia when the one-party Malay dominated national politics tradition has come to an end. So these changes happen because of combination of many things. So harder factors, corruption issues, cost of living problems, dissatisfaction, and so on and so forth. And this turnover may not be as surprising as we thought if we track back the intense participation of Malaysians in the elections, especially in the growing involvement of Malaysian diaspora abroad. So, as I mentioned before, Brazil started in 2006 and 2007, and it was actually resulting in the shifting of voters' orientation, as you can see in the 2008 general election compared to 2004. And Global Bersih formed in 2011, which fought for the postal ballot system reformation so that postal votes also can be also casted by Malaysian abroad. And thanks to the pressure, Malaysian overseas allowed to cast their postal votes starting in 2030. And of course, the election result pattern continued changing until the winning of opposition party in 2018. So also you can also see that the turnout rate for general election 13 and 14 show relatively a high percent as compared to the three other general election before Bersih, global Bersih, and overseas vote uh, allowed. So it shows that 2018 changes is not an overnight phenomenon, but an accumulation of grievances and opportunities which accumulated following the earlier election. And of course, this only happened with the help of social media, which is a main tool used by many social movements. And in the 2018 election, Malaysians who live abroad use this platform to express their mind. So Facebook groups like My Overseas Vote was created to share their opinions on the election alongside the funding for election travel and also viral campaign Jom Balik Undi, Come Home to Vote, to motivate Malaysian abroad to by any means cast their vote in the election. So how this diaspora organized this gathering highlights two key defining aspects of the Bersih movement. One, the movement widespread success in leveraging social media to mobilize supporters, and two, the extent to which support for the movement transcended both geographical boundaries and societal demographics, such as race and religions. Alright, so just to recap, my paper is discussing on the first, the racial issue in Malaysia, which leads to losing sense of belonging and drive people away. Second, the awareness and knowledge gained abroad improve the sense of belonging and channel through participation which channel through participation in global Bersih movement. And lastly, seeing the political participation among diaspora abroad in general election, especially general election 2018, which proves their sense of belonging and loyalty towards Malaysia, and also bringing in social changes. And throughout this, my discussion, I also mentioned the power of social media because since the advancement in technology, it helps the migrating process easier, and it also become the means for social movement organization to cultivate the belongingness among diaspora. So that's all for now. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.